Hello my lovelies, and welcome back to Colours of Nature Art. And if you've just happened upon my channel by chance, you're very welcome and thank you for stopping by. Now today I have finally finished the cover and the signatures are sewn in. Now this is on my desk for a reason today, because a lovely lady left a comment for me after one of my videos in which I showed this was something. It's Luise made this something very similar a few years ago, and this lady made a very good suggestion. She said, why don't you take a photograph of that and put it in the journal? So that's what I've done, and you'll see that a little bit later. But now for the cover. My goodness, this thing does weigh a ton. Are you ready? It's huge. Here we go. The cover revealed. But look at the size of this. I didn't want to make a chunky journal, and that is squishing it really hard shut. That's how big it is. So to the cover. This was one of my digital printables that you've probably seen on one of the journal pages. So I thought he would make a lovely cover, and the background is also one of my digitals. And I thought something Luise said recently was very interesting about using digital prints in art, and she said, well, they go through many different processes, and she's quite right, because for instance, something like this will start off, I'll often start off with one of my photographs or with some painting that I've done of a natural scene, or paintings I've made of fungi or something like this. And then I add that into a digital process, and it is an art form, and an awful lot of work actually goes into producing digital art. Well, good quality digital art, shall I say. Anyway, it's not one of those things where you just press a button and you've got an instant picture. So down here, I just used some embossing powder on this, and this was opal, an opal one. Now if you try that at home, as it were, be careful, because it does really heat up, and last Dephemerember I actually burnt my finger doing that. So this year I was very careful, and I used tweezers, and I was very sensible. So yes, so that's the front of the cover. Then we have the dingle dangles, and so far none of my dingle dangles have fallen off yet, which is quite something for me, isn't it? Oh, let's not play with them too much or they'll fall off. And then the back of the cover is another one of my digitals, which sort of goes with that particular series. And this was what I actually use. I've got a bit here. I just use calico, plain boring calico, but it's not very thick, so I did have to sort of put the brown paper bag inside it to stiffen the cover. And then I printed this out onto rice paper, and then stuck the rice paper onto the material, and that's what I've used also for the inside. This is the inside cover, the first page, and we've got my lovely black cat from the apothecary prompt, and then my little cottage girl up here, and then I added some roses in as well, and I did some stamping, as you can see on this, to get a print. And I have to say, when I lift this up to give you a close-up in front of the camera, it is really hard to lift. So if it goes all shaky, that's because I don't have a lot of strength in my wrists. So apologies if some of it shakes, but that's the reason why. But it's quite an awkward, because it is so thick. As you'll see, as we go along. But anyway, hopefully the flip through will go without a hitch and we won't have anything falling out of my journal this year. So down here we have, let's lift it up again. I don't know if you can see Barry the Badger, not in his steampunk outfit today, but he's sitting by the fire having some buttered toast and his cosy slippers. And I think he looks ever so cosy. And then we've got my Victorian maiden up here from the poetry one. And then just a little mini prompt list in there. And without any further ado, I will show you a flip through of the completed journal. And I'm going to put some music to this bit, and then I'll see you again after the flip through, because this year apparently I have got to answer 10 questions. I don't know how that's going to go, but we'll see. See you in a bit.
blade I hide, a secret love I can't confide, a creature strange from worlds afar. You are my love, you are my star. In the night I dream of you, a love so strange and yet so true. It is a dream we'll never share, because I'm from here and you're from there.
Hello again, and now to answer the question. So this is a new one on me, not done this before, so we'll see how it goes. And the first question we were asked is, which prompt felt the most personal to you and why? Well, this probably won't come as any surprise, but it is the photo. And to those of you who might have missed when I actually talked about this page, so I will try and be as brief as I can because I don't want to bore the rest of you. But this was my grandparents. It's my grandfather here and my grandmother, and as you can see, the men are in military uniform. And the Great War had only just started, the 1914-18 war, and my grandfather was in the Royal Army Medical Corps. And he'd been sent out to France to the trenches, and he was gassed with mustard gas and came back to the UK and was hospitalised. And on the marriage certificate, his place of residence was given as the General Hospital. So he'd been allowed out for a day. What I forgot to tell you last time was that after he'd recovered, he was sent from the hospital to a convalescent home, and then he was sent straight back to the trenches in France. And because he was a medic, he was looking after other people. So I'm very proud of my grandfather in that respect. But that was probably the most emotional page and personal page to make. And I think I had 3 attempts to make that page because I got over emotional, and I just couldn't. I had to keep turning the camera and the microphone off. So I've done quite well today. I've got through that little spiel without too much upset, so that's good. So on to the second question, which is, if you could redo one prompt, which would it be and why? I've got to find it now. I think it's somewhere near the back. The page, it's not because it's my least favourite page, because I ended up really absolutely loving this page. I'm sorry about this, but because it's so chunky, I'm having to hang on to it because it's trying to escape. Right. Now, the reason I wouldn't redo the whole page, and I certainly wouldn't redo the this one inside. I love that. I'm getting used to the wings. Worrying, isn't it? But there we go. The only bit of this that I would redo would be the monogram here, because here we have Montmorency, Bertram, Fortescue, if you remember. And I would have liked to have done something a little nicer up here at the top. But I was stuck because this paper that it's on is, what is it? It's 125 years old, and it doesn't take modern media very well, you know, the stuff that I wanted to use on here. So I think that was the only page I would want to do something slightly different, and I could still use this old page, but I could have had some sort of a bit of watercolour paper or something just superimposed on the top of there, so that I could have done something like, I wanted to do something sort of like the illuminated manuscripts, you know, but that didn't happen. So that's the only one I would do that. Next question, which prompt surprised you the most in how it turned out? Well, I think that has got to be the altered book page. The altered poetry. No, get it right. Altered book page and blackout poetry. Because when I did this, I was not expecting a sort of deep poem. And from that deep poem came, as you might have seen if you saw that particular video on this one, ended up with a video all on its own, which I put to music with images, brought about really completely by the poem. And I absolutely wasn't expecting that. So that was an interesting one. So Now, what's a technique or material you used during Dephemerember that you'd like to explore more in the future? Now, I can't remember the name of it, so please hang on just a second and I will be back with the actual product. Have a garden to look at while I disappear and get the product. There we are, I'm back. Totally disorganised today, aren't I? Frosted crystal. Now, that is the medium that I would use again. I was really very impressed with that. And if you remember, Luise showed us to use it with the clear embossing glaze. No, it's not the glaze, it's the powder, clear one. And that was to do with the bee. And as you can see, clear embossing powder on the wing. And then with the frosted crystal, we got this lovely fuzzy body on the bee. And I actually, the steampunk butterfly, I did the middle of that because butterflies have sort of fuzzy bodies, and that worked really well with that too. So definitely I would use the Distress Frosted Crystal again. Right, where have I got to with my... Which prompt made you step out of your comfort zone the most? Oh, that's an easy one. That is an easy one. Where is it? I don't even know where it is. Sorry about this, but I thought it was somewhere. Here it is. The paper bag handle and the slow stitching. The only thing I like about this page are my ducks in snowdrops. I love those. I think they're lovely. So, and my stitching, to be honest, it turned out all right, but it's a bit boring. And I have to say, I really didn't enjoy trying to make a paper bag handle and slow stitching. So I stepped out of my comfort zone with that one. And I really wouldn't want to do that one again. So that is my most boring page and the page I liked the least. Not that that was one of the questions, so I've just added in one of my own. Right, next question. What's one thing you've learned about yourself through this process? That's probably a more difficult one really, because I think at my age I sort of know myself well, so I don't think I learned anything new really, other than reinforcing something that I already knew, which is that it was a lot of intense effort concentrated into a small amount of time, making the journal. So it was a bit pressurized time-wise, and I think that took its toll physically on me. But I more or less kept up with the program, and I've certainly uploaded everything much earlier than I did in Dephemerember 2023 or Dephemerember 2022. So this is the third journal that I've made, and I've got 2 more journals half made, if that makes sense. Right, so on to question 7, which is, if you could send one page from your journals to someone as a gift, which one would it be and why? Well, that would be my steampunk butterfly. This journal really has a mind of its own. I'm having to keep it in check because it just goes mad. Right, but this is the page that I would send, and because this person loves steampunk per se, and he also likes Barry the Badger. And this person was actually instrumental in encouraging me about 4 years ago that it wasn't too late to sort of go with my creativity, and also to make better use of my back room, which I call my art room, and other people have seen it and said I really ought to call it an art studio, but I'm just worried that's a bit sort of pretentious. I mean, I am a photographer, but can I call myself an artist? I don't know. I do sort of paint proper pictures, but as another person who was also very instrumental in helping me to go with this creativity, actually sort of said to me, well, what is proper painting? Everything is art. I think probably, you see, up until the age of around 65, I always thought that I couldn't do art. And that's because when I was only 5 years old, I brought a picture home from school that I'd made. And my mother said, "What's that supposed to be?" And then promptly threw it in the rubbish bin. So from the age of 5, I sort of felt, well, I'm no good at art. I can't do art. And I still can't draw people. You'll get a matchstick figure. I can do animals, and I love drawing fungi and mushrooms and toadstools. Absolutely love it. So I think from that perspective, I sort of, well, I was 65 when I sort of really took off. I saw I wasn't able to do as much photography as I used to do. Wasn't able to get out as much as I did. And I saw a YouTube video on a channel called Clive 5 Art, and I got myself some acrylic paints, and it sort of all took off from there. Although I had been colouring in Johanna Basford's books for a couple of years before that, so maybe the colouring books were my real jumping off point. Well, that was a rather long answer, wasn't it, to that question, so I better speed up with the others, otherwise it's going to be very boring. Where did I get to? That was 7. I think that was 7. My piece of paper's fallen on the floor. Yes, I think I am an artist. We're meant to be scatty, aren't we? Right. Number 8. Which prompt would you recommend to someone new to junk journaling, and why? Well, I think there's 2 answers to that. The one that I probably would recommend would be the photograph one, because that is really very, very simple, and you don't have to do anything fancy like I did with that, because where's one I'm looking for is Katie's envelope that she put her little I can't find it now, but if you could use an envelope, there we go, and you could use that for the flip out. Put a photograph in there. It's just an ordinary envelope, and just colour it with some pencils or a bit of acrylic paint or something. You don't have to stick on die cuts or fancy stuff, just an envelope. Pop a photograph in there, maybe cut another photograph down, little one put on there, one on the outside, and you've got a flip. I put a magnet there because Katie wanted it very secure, so that it wasn't going to come out and nobody'd find it. So that is our secret. Nobody knows about Katie's secret love for Effie. But I think the most simple page, if it wasn't a prompt, because the question was a prompt, I would say probably this page. You might remember this when I was going back now. Was it sort of very beginning of Dephemerember when I was looking through papers. This was a wallpaper sample which I got free when I sent for something else, and this is a very simple page. Again, you don't have to use die cuts. You could just cut a piece of card, again colour it, stick a picture on it, and just have a straight diagonal across there and one at the top, because that's a little flip through, you can put something in there, and just cut a tag from card. And I put "this is perfection in simplicity" because there's just something simple about that. So that was interesting. But on the other side, because that was a wallpaper sample, on the other side of that I did something a bit more involved. I really did love this one. This is one of my digitals, and I cut her out and I stuck her onto the other side of the wallpaper paper and put some stamping on, and I merged her into the background as best I could. I actually got my gelatos out, which I really hadn't used for I don't know how long, and I needed some flowers. I knew I needed some flowers and I hadn't really got any, so I've got a lovely silk flower arrangement in my bathroom, so I went and pruned that. Most people don't prune silk flowers, but I cannibalized it, brought it back downstairs, deconstructed the whole thing. This was one flower, and I got 3 out of that by just using the different sort of middle bits. Used a Karen marker. They're really expensive, so I've only got 1 or 2, but you can use a Posca marker or something else. Colour the middles and put little flat pearl in, and a flower at the top and bottom, and that is sort of reminds me sort of springtime, very sort of fresh and spring-like. So it shows what you can do with wallpaper sample. You can go completely simple or complex like that. Oh, now, where did we get to? What's your favourite memory or moment from collaborating during Dephemerember? Well, this is more difficult because I didn't collaborate with anyone sort of other than myself. So I thought, okay, well, I'll ask me, myself and I, did I have a favourite memory? And I think that was probably, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this page, was the little cottage in the woods. I really can't remember where that came now. There we go. And I loved making this one. I really did. And again, it's tied up probably with my grandparents, because my grandparents, the one whose wedding photograph you've just seen, they lived in a little cottage in the woods, and my sort of earliest memory at the age of I was 2 is being pushed in my pushchair and being bumped over the tree roots as sort of my mother tore up the woodland path at a great rate of knots. But sadly, both my grandparents died when I was 2.5, so I don't really remember them, but I do remember the tree roots in the woods. And now, unfortunately, my grandparents died within a few months of each other. So, yeah, so I would say that is the cottage. Right, last question you'll be pleased to know. Number 10. If you could describe your journal in 3 words, what would they be? Well, that was difficult, but I think the first word would be immersive, because it was a very immersive experience that I've been Dephemerembering for several weeks now. I'm probably Dephemerembered out by now. But so that would be my first word. I think the second word would be inventive, because you had to be inventive with each of the prompts. And I think the third word is connection, and that is really feeling connected to so many people around the world through the shared experience of Dephemerember. And really, I just want to say, a huge thank you to everyone who's sort of taken the time to watch my videos and to make comments, because I was really amazed that so many lovely people have done so. And as I said before, this is the only a little channel, and I'm not looking to have a big channel or to monetize it at any point. I couldn't cope with all that. And I know, compared to the majority of channels with thousands of subscribers, it's going to seem strange for me to say, but I was totally amazed that I now have 77 subscribers, because I really wasn't expecting that at all. And that for me is absolutely huge. And every one of you who has subscribed, believe me, you are absolutely precious, and I would never take any of you for granted. And it's been lovely to have your company, because I uploaded videos with no idea if anyone was going to like any of them, or whether anybody was even, going to watch them. And I have to say that a lot of work does go into every video I make, so it's good to know that you've enjoyed them. And that also means a lot to know that I've been able to give other people pleasure through my sort of artistic endeavours, such as they sort of are. And I was thinking, if my subscriber numbers ever gets to 100, then we will do something special, maybe a giveaway or something, so watch this space. So thank you everyone for joining me for Dephemerember 2024, and I hope that you'll still visit my channel during 2025. I aim to upload something every 2 weeks or so, or as frequently as I can, and it's either junk journaling related or colouring books, or we have the odd unboxing or trial of various media products, and it's all stuff I buy myself, so you'll get totally honest reviews of all of that. And I'm also working on another journal at the moment, which I had to stop while I was doing this one. So you want a quick sneak peek? All right, just a quick sneak peek. And that is my grungy forest journal. So there we go. So that's just a little snippet of my grungy forest. So I will enjoy working on this one again, and thank you once again so much for joining me for Dephemerember. And so I think for now, let's have my Dephemerember journal back, and I'm just going to leave you now with a reminder of Mr. Pickles, and one of my upcoming videos will be to show you how to make the weird stuff. So over now to Mr. Pickles. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.